This is the Urban Binge Radio. Sunday Flow.
Karen knows she be singing. Anyway, guys, I am Rico Blucci. Fun fact number 3, Mrs. King believed that her husband's assassin, James Earl Ray, did not act alone, and that Memphis police, the United States government, and the mafia all conspired to kill her husband. And that's something that I've heard before. One day I was in New Birth, and I had a book, and the book did not have a cover. The cover was off, so it was just a bare orange book, chapter book. And Bernice King asked me to come in. When I came over to her, she said, "What are you reading?" I told her what I was reading. It's called a book by James Earl Ray, saying, kind of saying he didn't do this. He was framed, he was set up. And Bernice King told me to read the book to the end and dig deeper because he's not the one that killed my father. And I'm a kid and I'm like, whoa, what? I'm studying this. I'm into Dr. King's life, and you're telling me that James Earl Ray, your family, does not believe that this man killed your father. So she scrolled through the book and she was just telling me, I got to do my own research. I got to dig deeper. I got to find out the facts, and I'll see who the real killer was. So that really astounded me. And that wasn't my first encounter with Bernice King, but that was an encounter with Bernice King, one of many encounters with Bernice King. Like I said, she was my mentor. That was not the time that I met Bernice King. I met Bernice King when I was a young boy at New Birth, and she was new to New Birth. I had already been there, but I was a young boy intrigued with the story of Dr. King. So being intrigued, and so I was already intrigued with Dr. King and his family's life and everything. So to have Bernice King here at New Birth, I had to meet her. And so when I met her, she was very interested in me. The first thing she said was that God had a calling on my life, that she sees prophecy on my life, and she sees that God has a greater calling for me in all of this. And she wanted to get my number. She wanted me to be around more. She told my mom to come here. My mom, very shy, didn't want to go. She was very astounded, like, oh God, okay. She told my mom come here. She wanted to keep in touch. She asked my mom a lot about me, and my mom told her a lot about what I was going through. At the time, my mom was trying to get this homosexual thing out of me. She didn't want me to be gay. I was a young boy. She could see that I was very feminine. I had been molested. I had been raped. She felt like, okay, he's straying away. I need help. And so Bernice King was like, okay, you know what? I have somebody who I'm going to put in his life. I can't put myself in his life with him having his father dead and his mom is in his life. It's like another woman getting in his life. So a man needs to be in his life. And so Bernice King hooked me up with Kevin Bentley, which is her security guard. Kevin Bentley, mentored me for a short period of time before I really just felt like it was something that he didn't really want to do. It felt like he was being forced to do this. It felt like he was being forced to do this. So I wasn't really interested in having him as my mentor. So I kind of strayed away from that, but I stayed in touch, with Bernice King, always talked to Bernice King, always communicating with her, going to her side at New Birth when I go to church, stuff like that. So I did already talk a little bit. I'm sorry, that's my producer. I did already talk a little bit about the book that I got, but I remember this time my mom bought Bernice King twice. My mom has bought her a Swarovski crystal teddy bear that is, that sits up on a shelf or up on a dresser or something, and it was about this tall, and about this wide, and it was a crystal teddy bear. We went all the way to Lenox Mall, Swarovski, and got that. And then again, another birthday of Bernice King, my mom ended up buying her this huge circle watch. I mean circle clock, huge circle clock, big as 3 or 4 heads, with all of her family on the background of it from Swarovski crystal. So it was a Swarovski crystal clock that my mom bought her, huge, with balloons and cake and all this stuff. And I remember her giving me this necklace that said "Be a King" dog tag necklace, and a rice with a signature in it, and I loved it so much. It broke so many times, ended up getting it fixed. I think my mom has it at in her storage. But I really wanted to get Bernice King on here, and it didn't work out for me, unfortunately, right? Anyway, so Coretta Scott King not believing James Earl Ray acted alone is not surprising. So another thing I wanted to talk about, Coretta Scott King and the King family not believing that James Earl Ray acted alone. So you guys have to do your research. And go look up James Earl Ray. Before he passed away, unlike a lot of murderers who don't reveal anything, who don't end up telling their life story or what they really did, James Earl Ray seemingly came out and told this whole story, how he was framed by the FBI. He was told, he was given a gun, told to run. I read this entire chapter book. And when you read it, you begin to get compelled and you begin to feel like, wow, the FBI, the mafia, and everything Coretta Scott King believes is true. She believed the U.S. government, the mafia, the FBI, all of these people conspired to kill her husband, and she may be right. And James Earl Ray was a political person. He was actually out there either prior to the situation or the same day as the situation, passing out political flyers for presidency, for somebody's John F. Kennedy or somebody presidency. And somehow he gets caught up in the running, and supposedly a gun was passed to him or something like that, and he was framed, completely framed. So people say James Earl Ray, but the family says not just James Earl Ray. James Earl Ray was put up to do this.
Dexter King arrived at this Nashville prison to meet the man serving time for the death of his father, Dr. Martin Luther King.
Long anticipated visit.
The youngest son wanted to look into the eyes of a terminally ill James Earl Ray and ask one question in particular.
Did you kill my father?
No, I didn't know.
And then King offered this.
I believe you, and my family believes you, and we are going to do everything in our power to try and make sure that justice will prevail.
Their meeting became a one-hour friendly encounter. King and Ray sat only 3 feet across from one another. King listened intently to a frail 69-year-old Ray who was battling liver disease. They talked briefly about Ray's health and of hope that the courts will soon give Ray the trial he never had. In 1969, Ray confessed to killing Dr. King, but later recanted, saying he was framed. Over the years, Ray has tried unsuccessfully to get a trial. Last February, the King family testified in Memphis to help reopen the case. An appellate court is now considering the request. Prison doctors have said without a liver transplant, Ray has only months to live, and no donor has been made available. That continues to heighten the King family's concern. Ray may never tell his version of the truth in court. After the meeting, King said it was a success.
I can now feel somewhat relieved that, I heard with my...
And so a lot of people, when they hear that from Bernice King, or they hear that from Coretta Scott King or somebody in the family, it's kind of like, whoa, y'all don't even believe that he did it. Y'all, see, they're from Atlanta, first of all. They ATL and they black. So, of course, we got a higher way of thinking. They don't believe that it was the surface. They're thinking deeper than the surface. Why would the FBI not want him dead? They've been threatening him. They've been trying to kill him. They've been trying to get me to leave him, sending me videos and pictures and recordings of him cheating. So why would I not believe that the FBI, the U.S. government, because the president hates him too, why would I not believe that they're not out to kill my husband? So I completely agree, and I can understand their thought process completely, being that, this man got threats daily, constantly, hourly, constant physical threats and verbal threats, literally. I must say that James Earl Ray is now deceased. He died in prison, unable to really fully tell his truth. But he did do a few interviews, and Coretta Scott King also as well has spoken out about her belief on the whole situation.
The Urban Binge Radio Podcast,
where we discuss viral topics, hot jams, new artists, fun, and informative interviews and conversations. This is your news stop for the hottest trend in urban culture news. 2 shows, 1 podcast, The Urban Binge Show and Sunday Flow Show, powered by The Urban Binge.
The Urban Binge Radio Podcast. Listen anywhere podcast can be heard.
Haters like, am I going to hell for the things that I could wear?